I'm Eunice, the author of Tripod. I'm back again, and today I'll be reading from page 27, The Relocation. I will be bringing the reading of my book to a close soon, and if you need to continue reading, you want to find out how the book ends, you can get it on Amazon. If you have it, grab it. Let's read together. Tripwood contains solutions of childhood trauma, abuse, divorce, and poverty. There are so many strategies I listed in this book that have proven to be effective in dealing with trauma. Having said that, it's not a replacement for professional help. If you need help professionally, please consult your therapist. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. I'm a counselor, a mental health therapist. I speak about mental health, marriage. I have videos for singles. I have some tools for couples, married couples. If you haven't seen any of the videos, please check them out and help spread the word out there that marriage is a good thing and you need to prioritize your mental health. It's very important because you don't see your brain physically or your heart does not mean that you shouldn't look after your mind and your heart and your brain too is very important. So now to Tripod, page 27, titled The Relocation. This is chapter 4. While Bayonle lived with her grandma, her two older sisters lived with Michael. She wasn't even 10 when she left her grandma to reunite with Michael and her sisters. Bayonle's immediate older sister, Lara, had come to stay with Bayonle and their grandma during school break. And Michael had told Omalara to talk Bayonle into coming to live with them. Fortunately, it worked. Bayonle didn't have any recollection of her sisters because her parents had divorced when she was a toddler and she had been separated from her sisters. Part of her was excited because she would live with her father and siblings, and part of her was sad. She would miss her grandma, her aunt, neighborhood friends, school friends, and her teacher, Mrs. Oguntuye. Despite the abuse, Bayonle did have some fond memories of her early childhood with grandma. There was no internet, no social media, and no television during Bayonle's early childhood years. Children played with mud, grass, and old vehicle tires back then. They would cook imaginary food with tin cans as pots. The adults would gather children together in the front yard or backyard in the evening for storytelling. This was done under the moonlight all year round in Nigeria. The weather was favorable for outdoor play as there was no snow, no extremely cold temperatures. And I can relate to that because now I live in a continent where there is extreme temperatures. Sometimes it could get to minus 50 here in Canada, in the part where I live, anyways, because it's not all provinces that experience extreme temperatures. So back to page 28 of Tripwood. Bayonle loved to listen to the stories. Another of her favorite memories of her time with her grandma included the games she would play with the children and the games she would play with her grandma. One of Bayonle's favorite children's games was 10-10. This game is played with two kids facing each other. As the lead sings 10-10, they both hop and clap. It is similar to rock, paper, scissors. The only difference is that each kid will put one foot forward instead of a hand as they stomp with the other one. The game helped kids focus, learn numbers, and build their speed and strategic reasoning. Bayonle loved to play board games with her grandma. She learned how to play Ayo Olokmo, an African board game, and another board game called Ludo before she left her grandma's place. These two games were her grandma's favorites, and she gradually influenced Bayonle to fall in love with them. As young as she was, she became a threat to other players in the neighborhood because her grandma had taught her the tricks of the game so well. By the time Bayonle moved in with Michael, he had married another woman. Bayonle's new stepmom had a boy named Telas from her previous marriage. He was in his late teens when Bayonle met him. Telas would later become Bayonle's worst nightmare. But let's back up a bit. Michael was a workaholic. Bayonle can't remember a single day that he missed work. He would go to his goldsmith shop 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. After school, she would go to the shop with her sisters until closing time. The shop didn't have a consistent closing time. However, sometimes Michael wouldn't even close for the day until 8:30 p.m. This was perfect for Tellers because he used Michael's attitude towards work to his own advantage. Tellers would ask Bayonle to come home with him on those nights. Michael kept the shop open late. Even beyond those days, a stepbrother would always find an excuse, a way to get Bayonle alone with him in the house. His only aim was to touch her inappropriately. He insisted it was a do not tell affair, a special secret. Unfortunately, this marriage was short-lived. It lasted only about 3 years. With the end of the marriage came the end of Telax and Bayonle's unhealthy relationship. But the damage had been done. The seed of lust had been planted and was starting to grow in Bayonle's heart. She felt like damaged goods. Who would rescue her from this mess? Researchers have linked depression to poor social skills. Bayonle suffered in silence as she watched her social life ruined by her traumatic childhood experience. She was always sad and irritable. She often held grudges against neighbors. She lacked motivation, felt guilty about things she did or didn't do, and had suicidal thoughts. How would she ever navigate through life successfully? Bayonle felt like no one wanted her. She was convinced that she had been born into this world only to suffer. Whenever she was sick with malaria, the common cold or laryngitis, she would wish it would kill her so she could escape from her life of sexual abuse and poverty. Loneliness and isolation encapsulated her. A snapshot of Bayonle's home environment. To really understand Bayonle requires a complete visual of where and when she lived during her formative years after she left her grandmother. During her elementary and high school, Bayonle lived in an overcrowded two-story house with her family. Her family did not occupy both floors. Instead, there were 12 rooms on the second floor, and 6 families lived on the first floor alone. The average size of each family was 4 people. Bayonle's family occupied just 2 rooms. One room was the living room and the children's room. The children have their bed in the living room. They shared one double bed, a spring bed with an old brown mattress that occupied a space against the wall opposite the door. They all slept on that same bed for more than 2 decades. Bayonle doesn't remember the bed having a fabric cover either. As far back as she could remember, the mattress was always bare, and it certainly was not white. They even had to spray it periodically to eliminate bed bugs. At the front of the tattered bed was a clothes rack. By the window was an old sagging sofa, and across from that were two armchairs, a small brown wooden table centered between them. Against the wall across from the sitting area was a big table, upon which sat a record player with which Michael played his favorite artist, Adedara Arunra, Lọ́jà Ọba. Under the table was the pantry. Cooked food, plates, and utensils occupied a 30 by 50 light green cupboard by the door, and a 45 by 25 mahogany storage shelf beside that stored all their books and papers. That one room was where Bayonle spent much of her life. The hallway in front of each tenant's room was the kitchen, which included only a table, cooking pots, utensils, and kerosene stove. They didn't have luxury kitchen appliances like the refrigerators and dishwashers that rich families had. The second room was solely Michael's. All tenants on the second floor shared one bathroom. There was always a long queue on weekdays and Sundays. There were only 2 toilets, one for each floor, and they were both on the main floor. Bayonle's favorite spot in the house was second floor balcony. The house was on the main road right across from her elementary school. She didn't have to walk long distances to school like some other children, so at least she had that. She was also fortunate that her high school was located behind her elementary school. The 2 schools were only separated by a high fence. The balcony became a den or rec room for all the tenants, adults and children alike. Bayonle liked watching pedestrians, vehicles, motorbikes, and food vendors go by. Most times, people didn't even have to go to the market to buy groceries. Instead, if one stayed about an hour on the balcony, one could buy everything needed to make dinner. Most beef vendors used bicycles with a carrier and made good use of their bike horns. The horns were so loud that people could hear them from their rooms. All people needed to do was to wave a vendor down from the balcony and run outside to buy their meat. It was the same for other food items. Families could buy most things from the comfort of the balcony. Bayonle does have some good memories of lounging in the safety and comfort of that balcony. She loved watching all the special events that would take place on the streets. For instance, after she graduated from elementary school, she would watch the school's sports day from the balcony. And during summer, she would watch the parties people held. Folks would actually rent the school field for their parties. One such party was the performance of a renowned artist from the East. Bayonle watched from the balcony with other kids. The scenery and the distractions from the balcony nearly got Bayonle into big trouble with Michael one Saturday morning. Moses was a teenager that lived with his parents on the main floor. Moses was a fearless boy who liked to experiment. He took a few shots of his father's aromatic schnapps and an hour later became an entertainer. Everyone watched from the balcony. At that time, Bayole was frying akara, bean cake. As she was standing watching Moses' one-man drama as if hypnotized, she suddenly remembered she hadn't tasted the akara. She quickly checked and thanked God because it hadn't yet burned. As she was about to put the last batch in the hot oil, she tasted one of the cakes and realized she hadn't added salt. So she added salt to the last batch before she fried it, knowing the morning would not be a good one if she had served Michael tasteless akara. She was relieved she had caught it in time. The rest of them would have to eat tasteless breakfast, however. So this is where I will put the reading of today to an end, and we will continue next time from page 32. My name is Eunice. Have a great day. Bye-bye.